FORA.tv. The world is thinking.
The first had to do with arguing from below rather than arguing from above. And what do I mean by that? I mean arguing from an undisputed empirical basis towards ambitious or demanding claims. Darwin, of course, does this most beautifully On the Origin of Species in the first few chapters. And one of the things we always have to think about when we think about Origin of Species, as being published in 1859, is it's one of the rare texts in the history of science where the expert text and the popular text are the same book. That is to say, Origin of Species isn't a popularization of some other tome that Darwin wrote for an audience of scientists. Not at all. It is the book that's intended, published by a commercial publisher, and intended for everyone in this room, so to speak, to read. And how does Darwin begin it? Darwin says, well, I'm going to try and solve the mystery of mysteries, which is a huge ambition. I'm going to try and solve the mystery of mysteries, the origin of species. Then does he proceed to give you a set of principles which will enable you to see how he's going to go about it? Not at all. As all of you know who have read the book, what he does instead is to begin talking about dogs and pigeons. He begins talking about dogs and pigeons and how they're bred. And he uses common sense experience, common experiences we all have about how we can go from one common ancestor among dogs, the wolf, into all of these incredibly varied particular kinds, greyhounds, Pekingeses, Havaneses, guard dogs, that by a simple process, very well understood, we can create enormous variety from a single parent. And everybody, you have to nod in assent because it's well understood. And Darwin, I should add, went to a great deal of trouble to learn exactly how dogs are bred, and particularly how pigeons are changed. He spent a great deal of time among the Cockney pigeon fanciers of London throughout the 1840s and 1850s, and he points out the same thing is true of pigeons. We know exactly how pigeon breeders breed pigeons, and they can take a common rock dove and turn it into something that can deliver messages over hundreds of miles or simply be a beautiful little white powder pigeon. We know how transformation takes place in the biological world through our will and volition. Nobody disputes it. Everybody agrees. And you sort of nod along. It's a wonderfully detailed, varied explanation of how it is that pigeons and dogs get made, get bred. So you're nodding in assent almost before you know that you're being argued at. And then he says, if we can do it that way with dogs and pigeons in a very brief period of time, using just kind of a common knack shared by the simplest among us, what could nature not do, given an unlimited spread of time, and some other kind of mechanism that enables it to happen? So instead of arguing from first principles towards the particulars, he argues from the particulars towards a larger and more ambitious theory. It's an amazing way of going about it. It makes for a wonderful book. And when Darwin submitted the manuscript to his publisher, the first reader of the book said, in his report, the reader's report said, this book has fabulous stuff in it about dogs and pigeons and how they're bred. And then, unfortunately, it extrudes into a series of metaphysical speculations. You might ask the author to revise the book. We've all gotten that reader's report, to eliminate the metaphysical speculations and emphasize his wonderful material on dog and pigeon breeding.